Gold Award winner HKT Limited developed two revolutionary services which totally redefined the playing field and enabled the company to achieve record-breaking results in a highly saturated market. Leveraged on the popular character Doraemon and a 360 marketing approach, the Silver Award winner Harbour City achieved phenomenal marketing and financial results and successfully reinforced its leading position. With a simple yet impactful communication message, Green Monday successfully appealed to its target audience and changed their behavior in meat consumption and won the Bronze Award.
The HKMA TVB Awards
for Marketing Excellence
is open for entry now. Give us your support.
Thank you. Hong Kong is the place where everybody can share a great time together. Happy at Hong Kong.
Celebrate this Easter with a proper egg hunt. Accessories that exude beauty and confidence. Also, home decor with historical influences. And pictures by Japanese iconic photographer Daido Moriyama. Thursday night, Dolce Vita at 10 on Pearl.
It was 20 years ago. Ever since, time has never been so magical.
The time now is 11:41. The time check was brought to you by Chopin.
Hundreds still missing in South Korea ferry disaster. Ukraine hits back at pro-Russia pricing, and mega events fund accused of mega freebies. Good evening. Hundreds of people remain unaccounted for after a ferry sank off the southern coast of South Korea. The ferry was carrying 477 people, mostly South Korean high school students. So far, 4 people have been found dead and dozens are injured. Sonia Artero reports on the frantic search for survivors.
Dozens of boats, helicopters, and divers were seen scrambling to rescue the masses that were being ferried to the southern island of Jeju. The ferry, identified as the Seawall, was carrying 477 passengers and crew and 150 vehicles. Among those on board were 325 high school students on a field trip. Officials say just as the ship was nearing Jeju Island, for reasons unknown, it began to list and roll on its side. That's when the South Korean Coast Guard received a distress signal. Many suspect the vessel ran aground as scores of passengers said the ship began to careen to the port side after making a banging sound on the bow. Survivors are in utter shock, citing perfectly calm conditions on the ocean when out of nowhere the ferry capsized. This student claims the moment the ferry began sucking in water, passengers tried to escape, but an announcement on board directed them to stay still. This traumatized passenger is adamant many people were still trapped inside when the ferry sank. Adding to the confusion, a senior official at the Public Administration and Security Ministry kept changing the numbers of injured and missing without elaborating. The official vowed an investigation is underway to determine what went wrong. Parents of the student passengers boarded buses to where the rescued were transferred to in the hope of learning their children made it out alive. Authorities admit the ferry went off its prearranged route as it departed some 2.5 hours later than scheduled due to a thick fog. Rescued students, many without shoes, were wrapped in blankets and tended to by emergency workers. Other students say in order to escape, they had to jump into the ocean wearing life jackets and swim to a nearby rescue boat. With the exact number of the missing still unknown, searchers are still scouring the area, but mud on the ocean floor is making underwater search operations difficult. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
The Ukrainian government says its forces repelled an attack at an airport in predominantly Russian eastern Ukraine. It's the first military action against the pro-Russian uprising and came just hours after the country's president said the government was launching an anti-terrorist operation. Alan Buchnia has more details.
Ukrainian military helicopters could be seen heading towards the Kramatorsk airport, and shortly after that, shots being fired could be heard. The precise sequence of events was mired in confusion and contradictory claims. The commander of the Ukrainian operation said about 30 gunmen in green military uniforms with no insignias tried to storm the airport but were repelled. He said there were no injuries, while a pro-Russian coordinator said 2 people were slightly hurt. Meanwhile, in the capital city, Kiev, Ukrainian acting president Oleksandr Turchinov told Parliament special forces had recaptured the airport that was being occupied by militiamen. Russia denounced the military operation, saying it was criminal to fight your own people who speak out for their legal rights. Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said Ukraine is on the brink of civil war, calling it a scary situation. In Washington, the Obama administration gave its tacit support to the actions by the Ukrainian government.
And we agree that the use of force is not a preferred option. That said, the Ukrainian government has the responsibility to provide law and order. And these provocations in eastern Ukraine are creating a situation in which the government has to respond.
Meanwhile, 6 armored vehicles flying Russian flags drove into the eastern Ukrainian city of Slavyansk, where pro-Russian militias have taken over several government buildings. One soldier claimed the unit was part of a brigade of Ukraine's military that switched sides. Just 70 kilometers from Slavyansk, 2 columns of Ukrainian combat vehicles are conducting military exercises. In an effort to quell the growing tensions, foreign ministers from Russia, Ukraine, the U.S., and the European Union are scheduled to meet in Geneva on Thursday. Alan Buchnia, TVB News.
Locally now, and the Audit Commission is calling on the government to review the Mega Events Fund. It has criticized the Tourism Commission for failing to properly manage the fund. Rani Samtani has more.
The Mega Events Fund has funded Hong Kong's hosting of more than 24 events involving nearly $100 million since it was set up 4 years ago. Football matches between Manchester United and Kitchee last July cost $8 million, but out of the 40,000 tickets available, only half were sold to the public. At a golf tournament, only 7% of the tickets were sold to the general public. The rest were issued as free tickets to sponsors and organizers. The Director of Audit also reported suspected irregularities in Mega Events Fund records. For an event involving a series of shows in 2010, $2.5 million was granted by the Mega Events Fund for publicity and promotion on the mainland, Macau, and the Asia-Pacific region. However, it was found that $240,000 was spent on promoting the shows in Canada. And it noted that the fund management failed to keep account of quotations, invoices, staff recruitment, and payroll records. In one case, an organizer was overpaid, but the mistake remained undetected until the Audit Commission's examination. It was also found that unused portions of government funding were never refunded, and the majority of jobs created for funded activities were extremely short-term and temporary. For a Dragon and Lion Dance event, the organizer agreed to hire a minimum of 3,000 performers. But in the end, the report found that only 1,850 people were hired. Most of them were children accompanied by their families and could not be counted as paid performers. The director of audit stressed the importance of bringing mega events to Hong Kong. He said that staging successful, spectacular events will not only attract more visitors, but it will also raise Hong Kong's profile as a host for international sports and arts activities. The director of audit called on the government to urge the Tourism Commission to conduct an overall review and to devise a stricter mechanism to review the application and verification of information submitted by the event organizers. The government said the Tourism Commission will take follow-up actions. Mega Events Fund Assessment Committee Chairman Jeffrey Lam said they are monitoring each project strictly. Ronnie Samtani, TVB News.
Debate on almost 2,000 amendments to the budget bill has been postponed to the end of the month. Already those for and against filibustering tactics are on the attack. Stephanie Choi reports.
League of Social Democrats Leung Kwok-hung stormed into the second reading of the 2014 budget, tossing sacrificial money at Financial Secretary John Tsang. He slammed the government for failing to allocate more resources for universal retirement protection in its budget. During her speech, Carrie Lam criticized the legislators behind the planned filibuster for proposing mostly trivial amendments to the budget.
These members repeated their tricks, and they added the 1,900 amendments trying to block the passage of the budget so as to achieve their goals, such as giving money to everyone or implementing universal retirement protection. This is disappointing. The government should not succumb to the pressure of filibustering and introduce policies hastily.
People Power insists its legislators are not repeating any tricks, and that not only are the amendments they propose this year fewer in number than in the past, they are also less trivial.
To full filibustering, to enable the public to have a better understanding of public policy, especially this time about the overall principle of public governance on public expenditure. And secondly is to enable the councillor have a close scrutiny of government policy, to see if it is possible to change some of the government's attitude and policy on certain issues.
Lawmakers passed the second reading of the budget this morning, but since the LegCo Secretariat needs more time to process the many amendments, the third and final reading, when the debates will happen, has been adjourned to the end of this month. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
Legislators are putting the heat on the MTR Corporation following media reports it may have known of the 2-year delay in the construction of a high-speed rail project well before making the announcement yesterday. Company documents also purportedly contained forecasts the project could run more than $2 billion over budget. Dated from the 10th of March, the documents show that the MTR Corporation had already estimated that the West Kowloon terminus of the Hong Kong section of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Express rail link would not be fully completed before August 2017. Reportedly, the documents also reveal that back in March, the railway operator knew that the project could run up to $2.8 billion over budget. But when announcing the 2-year delay yesterday, the railway operator put the blame on heavy rain late last month, which had damaged a tunnel boring machine. Beyond the 9-month delay caused by the damaged boring machine and the $4.4 billion contingency fund that it will have to tap into to cover the costs, the MTRC has refused to disclose further details about the length of the construction delay and the estimated additional costs. Yesterday, Secretary for Transport and Housing Anthony Joao, who's also an MTR board member, said he had only learned about the extent of the delay over the weekend. But legislators are not buying this.
And we believe that he should get all the paper, all the documentation, all the evidence to get to his conclusions. But unfortunately, he said yesterday that he was surprised.
Joined by other Democratic Party legislators, Wu Chi-wai said he will be demanding to see the technical reports upon which Joao based his claim that the Express Rail Link project was on schedule. And Federation of Trade Unions legislators are threatening to launch a LegCo probe if the MTRC is not more forthcoming.
If we do not have the whole picture, or we think that the MCL have not revealed the whole truth, that we will consider to ask the electrical to form a select under the PMP.
5 people have been arrested in a sting operation involving expensive cars and big money. Police say the goal was to dodge high taxes for importing luxury vehicles. Diane To has the story.
Officers